All right, folks, let's make a start. So welcome to Supporting Champions webinar number 5. So we've got a full program of webinars that have already happened. You can catch up on several of those already. They've got 3 recordings. We didn't do the first one, but that's all right. We might repeat it. So tonight's session is very much about securing work experience. I've got some insights to share with you tonight, but I also want you to be benefiting from this. So as people that have been on these before will know, but if you haven't been on before, there's an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end. That's been brilliant, I think, so far. Some amazing questions, really perceptive, getting to the heart of the matter of you creating the experiences and the profile and the career that you're already after. And that's what these webinars are about, to support you. So if you want to make a comment or thought at any point, then use the chat function. If you don't want me to read your name out, then please just put a star before your question. So, so tonight's session is about securing work experience, but very specifically, it's about securing relevant work experience and how you can go about actually doing that. So a sobering statistic is that our understanding when we've been speaking to a number of universities is that approximately 75% of people studying sports science want to work in sports performance. They want to, they've gone into sport science as a study route, and they're aspiring to work with the best performers. So if you're doing a sport and exercise science, that might be slightly lower because you might be interested in exercise too. Our statistics and figures from our work at recruitment of graduates for positions is that 0.03% of the graduate pool are ready to work. So something's gone wrong between 75% of people saying that I want to work in this to actually 0.03%. So few people are actually ready to work. Now, there's a problem there in terms of the fact that maybe there aren't enough job opportunities. But my conviction is, from my experience over the years, is that you can differentiate yourself pretty easily because there are a few things that stand out really clearly for you to make that career. Get the job applications in and get shortlisted, get the interview, be offered the job. And if there was one single element that gets you from the rejection pile on an application through to, you know what, I think we need to look at this person, it's work experience. And so if I had £1 for the number of people that I told go and get some work experience, just get out there and knock on doors, I would be extraordinarily rich. If I had £1 for the number of people that actually went and did it, I would be, well, I'm in credit, so I've not lost anything, but I would not be rich. However, those people that have gone and done that have become extremely successful. They've stood out from the pack. There we go. What we're going to be covering today, just check, can you see the slides all right? I'm seeing a slight malfunction there. Fantastic, thank you, Jamie. So what we're covering today is we're thinking about finding opportunities, and I'm not going to show you any magic formula, but I will walk you through how I think you should be finding opportunities. At the end of the session, after the Q&A, I'm going to go on Google and I'm going to almost sort of just walk through how I would go about finding opportunities ourselves. So I'm going to do that at the end of the recording, mainly because I'm going to clip that off the recording when it gets stored. I'm going to put you in the mind of the other person, the person you're trying to influence, trying to secure some opportunities with, how you can go about making contact, and what's really important to be thinking about and practicing. Practicing is absolutely critical for this. If that means that you've got to stand awkwardly in a mirror or video yourself, then do it. But because under a little bit of pressure, you will descend to the level that you practice at. And if you haven't practiced, you'll descend quite low. What are the key behaviors and skills about you showing up and making sure that you actually deliver on the placement. Because one thing, if you do a placement and you're really rubbish, then people are going to talk badly about you. So the reality is that you need to make sure you deliver in that placement. It's not just about securing it. Some Q&A, and then at the end, I'm going to go onto Google and search and show you what I think you need to be thinking about. And then I'm going to show you a couple of opportunities that have been put forward. We put a bit of a Twitter call out for anyone who's got a specific opportunity, and we've had quite a few come in, and I've cherry picked 2 that I think might be good for you to consider and have a think about that. So if you are a student and you want to work in sports and performance, if you are working in sports science and you just want to be effective, that these webinars are aimed at supporting you to up your impact, not just now, but through your career. Our big goal and aim is to upgrade and support you to a higher level of performance. That's the motivation. And the reason that we do this is that we think there are some outstanding people out there. They just don't know how to show it yet. And that has been my frustration over the years, that there's some amazing people, but they're not realizing their potential. So this is what the hope is. So get your questions ready for today. Ping those across, and we'll deal with those in about probably about half an hour's time, 20 minutes, half an hour's time. So let's get into some polls. So this has been a fun bit of the session. So here we go. Let's get right into it now. How much experience do you currently have? Not 2 weeks. This is in the role that you want to do. So if your aspiration is as a performance analyst with a Premiership football team, how much experience have you got doing performance analysis for a club or a sport or a coach, for example? Is it a couple of weeks, 2 to 6 weeks, so nearly a month or so, 6 to 26 weeks, so nearly half a year to a year, or more than a year's worth of work? Closing poll. Sharing the results now, so not 2 weeks, so 30%, so you haven't started yet. 30% of you haven't necessarily got out there and started. You might have maybe acquired a bit. 2 to 6 weeks, not many, 11%. 6 to 26 weeks, 19%. 4%, 26 to 52. Okay, so 52 weeks plus. So some of you have got a year's worth of experience. So over a third of you have got a year's worth of experience. And so again, my assumption is that you need to perhaps even nail even more relevant work experience as opposed to just more of what you've already got. So it might need to be stronger work experience. Again, please let me know in the chat box if my assumption's incorrect or misplaced there. So we've got a wide range of experience levels. My rough estimate is that to be starting work, you need probably at least 1 to 2 years worth of experience, and I would say that could be part-time to start securing practitioner type roles. I've got a couple more. Quick one. Which would you prefer, formal work placement or experience, or to create your own opportunity? This is just me being nosy now. I'm just interested as to what people's thoughts are about how this might run for you. Do you want someone to run it, or do you want to run it yourself? Well, it was neck and neck all the way, actually. Formal work placement, 48%. So you want it organized for you, structured for you, or 52% about creating your own opportunity. So you're going off grid a bit and making it for yourself. So I've got some key thoughts about this. So this will be interesting. All right, now let's get into the business end of these polls now. How many approaches have you made to people or organizations for experience? So how many? If you just haven't got going yet, maybe a couple, a handful, a couple of handfuls or more. And you can take that last question as 10 to 20 plus. Right, okay, fantastic. So 81% of you voted. Closing the poll because everyone wants to know how many approaches. I think you should find this useful. I mean, I'm just curious here. So 8% of you haven't done it yet, so you're still waiting to make that move. A couple, 23% of you. If in that none to 1 to 2, if you have if you've thought, oh, I've tried, or I don't know really how to start, tonight's kind of perfect for you. If there's any chance of you like I've tried a couple, but it hasn't worked, so I've just kind of given up, then tonight I'm going to make the case for you to keep going. 3 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20. Okay, great. So you are industrious, you're making those contacts, wonderful, which is great. But here's my last question for you tonight. How did you make contact? Did you literally knock on the door? Did you make a phone call? Pick up the phone and make an introduction? Did you send an email? Did you write a letter, old-fashioned style, with a quill? I mean, sometimes a letter can potentially work. Right, keep voting. What was your mode of communication? Any more for any more? Go on. A couple more. That's it. Go on. That's it. Right. I'm closing the poll. This is interesting. This is the source of the problem, guys and girls. This is the source of the problem. And we will definitely get onto this tonight. So, all right, we'll get into this in a minute. But so most of you have sent an email, and my assumption is they haven't responded, or they just written back and said, "Sorry, I haven't got anything." So, how does it feel? Imagine somebody contacting you for experience. Imagine somebody who politely turned up one day and said, "Look, I'd really love to hear what you do and what you've studied, and I was wondering if you could just spend me 5 minutes just to tell me about what you're up to." Imagine how that would feel versus getting an email from somebody. So this is the source of the problem. All right, so really useful information there. Thank you everyone for engaging in that. And so back to the presentation. Hopefully you can still see those slides. So we've got a bit of a split between sort of structured formal work placement opportunities, or going au naturel and out there in the wild and trying to find your own. The problem with formal work placements is that they're few and far between. There aren't many kicking about. So you will see waves of these happen every now and again. Unpaid internships might be one particular option, but not many people will advertise that many work placement opportunities. Sometimes at a university, they can structure them for you, or they can organise them for you. I was talking to a university today who's got good links with the Welsh Rugby Union, for example, and they get somebody with a placement in there every time. And the wonderful thing about those is that you're locked into a system, and it's a nice, comfortable environment. But there's a potential chance that you will shadow. And I use that word specifically because they want you to come in, they'll be supportive of developing people, but it's probably not a case for you to be really alive in the environment thinking, how am I getting on here? Because you're shadowing, you're stood at the back, you're watching somebody do a lab test, you're watching somebody do a consultation. It's almost like you're just watching YouTube, and you're not necessarily feeling the cut and the thrust of that responsibility of working. So if you go out and self-generate the experience, it probably won't have as much structure. You might not have a formal agreement you sign up to. You might do. A formal agreement means that you're You've got a little bit of a contract. Maybe there's a bit about there. You've got to be confidential about what you might experience. You don't retain any of the data, all those sorts of things. But going out there, it means that you've got to make it happen. And it means that there'll be a lot more moving parts. The au naturel, self-generated, off-grid, unstructured work placements, I believe, truly committed to this as a belief, I believe that is a far richer learning experience than the structured formal work experience opportunities. And I would say if you can do both, that's perfect. But I would say that if you're going to choose one route and that you're going to go exploring, then self-generate that experience because it's far stronger as a vehicle for your learning and the amount of things that you're going to be learning. If you're just watching someone do their job, you're not in there, and so that's the big problem here. So this DIY, doing it yourself, getting out there, it means that it's a little bit more complex, it's a little bit more uncertain. It means that to actually get the gig, you're going to need to be able to communicate what you do, and you have to pitch yourself in the right way. But as many of you would have heard already on the webinars, that communication of what you do, the value of consultancy in the future, these are critical skills for you to be able to debate, discuss, present, pitch for work, and that is not going to go away. So practice it now whilst you can. Almost view it as your own skill development. So at the end of the webinar, I'm going to go through this and do a couple on Google. But just get on Google and search like sports clubs near me. That there's a bit of a certain radius to that. How close could you practically commit to doing some work experience? But also you can see the type of clubs that are around and near you. So how many people have actually done that? And that, again, just give me some feedback on the chat box if you haven't or you have done that. A simple Google search of sports clubs near you. I know that I'm not going to get a Nobel Prize for this particular slide, but it is an essential step of understanding what's out there. So get on the web and start searching. Once you find a club, if you think, okay, there's a particular club that I'd like to work with, then do a bit of Googling. Find out if they've got a newsletter, for example. Find out if they've got a Facebook site. See if they've got a social media account. Because then what that can give you is there's the particular club that I'm thinking about. Let's find out how it actually looks in that environment. Literally, you might get pictures. You might find out who's leading the operation. You might then start to find out what's the vibe in that particular club. There's an awful lot you can gather from seeing what's happening online. So 20 years ago, this wasn't available as a search function to be able to almost pre-screen what you've actually doing. Interesting comment there, Caitlin. So can I read that out? In all honesty, I think I've been looking for only higher performance teams. However, I think I need to lower my expectations. So that's an interesting comment. We'll get into that one in a bit later, but ultimately you've got to think these are stepping stones as to thinking if I want to work with LeBron James at the LA Lakers, then I might need to prove myself in British basketball first or collegiate basketball. And that might mean I start with the local basketball team because the best indication you can do the next level up is the one before. So when I got the gig at British Rowing, that was because I'd worked with regional rowing. So they could see that I'd done it. I'd worked in that operation before. So yeah, get into the sort of social media accounts. And this isn't just necessarily being about, stalking people. This is about researching. A key question at job interviews is, what have you done in preparation for this? And if someone says, I've been on your website, I've had a look at the environment, and I've tried to understand what the culture of your operation is, that speaks volumes. So, but also you can tune into almost the character of the operation too. So in order of effectiveness, this is the way it goes. So first base is knock on the door. Literally find out when they're training, find out when they get together, and it might mean repeated visits, and knock on the door. In person, you've turned up and you've been brave enough and committed to do that. Second base, but I would not recommend it, is pick up the phone. And if you really want to limit your potential, email people. If you think, actually, you know what, I'm not fussed on that as a career, just send emails out. They generally bounce. Over the last 25 years, I've tried to respond to nearly everybody who's emailed me asking for advice and experience, unless they really make a mess of it. And because it takes time to respond to an email, but if someone stood in front of you, then they've got to respond. So this is the sort of this is the continuum. If a gold star, you get gold medal, top of the podium for approaching. You don't even make the final for phoning. You didn't even get to the competition if you're emailing. Am I making myself clear on this particular idea? You've also got to think, what would it feel like for them? And how it would feel to just get a cold email versus somebody taking the time and the effort to find you. The second tip would be about thinking, if you're really struggling, if you're not necessarily getting the momentum, there's probably something wrong in your initial communication. There's probably something wrong in how you're doing it, but it might be that there's a sweet spot here where you know somebody who's already actually delivering experience. So if they've already got a placement opportunity, then what you might be able to do is lock in behind them. So think about some of your colleagues, some of your friends who've got that sweet experience and they've got that opportunity, then that might be to say, can I come along and watch you do that too? So that's another potential option, not nearly as strong as finding your own opportunity though. So if nothing's happening, if you're not necessarily getting the opportunities, you've got to stay curious, thinking about your own technique. If you're not making a connection with someone, if they are not accepting you in, then something is wrong. So either they haven't got the capacity to even think about it and they're genuinely busy, and so that you've probably found the wrong place to look. Equally, if someone says, yeah, we have had work experience, but it hasn't worked for us before, then you've got to explain why it might work in the future. Or if someone says, no, sorry, and it's a blank, just please get out, then you've probably made the wrong pitch. And if that's happening, you've got to be learning and you've got to be shaping and crafting the perfect pitch to get that experience. But equally, if you're in communication with coaches and athletes, ask them, what are you working on at the moment? What are you up to now? Because then when they start talking to you about, well, actually, I'm really struggling with my training at the moment, and then you say, that's interesting. How much training are you doing? And now you're almost creating the curiosity and the case for you to actually deliver that work for them. Okay, so let's get in the mind of the person you're doorstepping. So the doors of the swimming pool open, and you talk to the receptionist, and you say, "Can I have a chat to Janet or Jim, the head coach today?" And they say, "Oh yeah, they're just setting up for the session. I'll go and see if I can find them." And they get a tap on the shoulder, and they say, "I've just got 5 minutes. How can I help you?" Immediately, they are thinking, "Who are you? Who are you? Who on earth is interrupting me just before I'm setting that session up?" So you've got to get into their mind as opposed to thinking about, I'm in it for me. They're busy people, they've got responsibilities, they've got lots of people looking to them, and they will be thinking, who on earth are you? So the first concept to be getting into your head as you're preparing your thoughts and your pitch is about what value you can bring to their operation. It's about, I want to add value to you, your club, your team, your athletes. That's the simple concept. Don't think about what value can I extract from them. It's about what value add you can give to them. That's critical. It's about them, not you. And that's that you get in that mindset of, wow, what a privilege to go and help other people, as rather than a grabby, ah, this opportunity doesn't look like it's good enough for me. That type of attitude, you're gonna shore for very quickly. So my top tip, and finding the right level for this is critical, is don't go in there thinking you're some sort of superhero and that you turn up and you go, you know what, I've got so many high grades in my modules now. I'm just really waiting for the right person to listen to my brilliance. And and it might sound a bit funny, but actually it's genuinely sickening to hear people turn up like that. I was once asked by somebody prior to a job application, and someone asked if I could move the interviews from London to Liverpool because the travel would be a bit tiring because they've got to study. And I didn't have good words to say to that person. They don't turn up like some sort of superhero. There's a bit of a Goldilocks level here that you've got to find. It's about finding the right level, not too hot where you're all over them and you're too intense, but not too humble and not too shy and not too self-effacing and sorry about everything. Too sort of squeaky mouse versus the superhero. There's a sweet spot in here where you've got to be, and this is the way I would say it, but this is my own bias, is just polite enough, slightly formal, but quite casual with it. Um, that sounds a bit, it doesn't sound great when I'm saying it, but if you're too informal and you're like, hey, high five, let's give hugs, you're a bit as you would be on Snapchat or to your mates, then it shows a lack of respect. So find a sweet spot where it's suitably humble and self-effacing, but you're also assertive with it. So 3 points. You've got to introduce yourself, you've got to show respect, and you have got to focus on helping. Now, this is a wonderful example of, oh, introduce yourself. Yeah, I can do that. So have you practiced that? Have you actually practiced introducing yourself in one sentence? So this would be something I'd urge you to do. It's amazing how many people I'd ask at interview to say, tell me about yourself, and they struggle to talk about themselves. Show respect, so show deference, understand that they're busy people, and then you're in your mind, you should be thinking about focusing on helping. And what I've now got for you is a couple of key sentences, and I'll copy and paste these in the chat box if I can do that in a moment. So here we go. This is kind of how I think it needs to be structured. Hi, my name is Steve Ingham. I'm one of the many students that are studying sports science locally here. That sentence specifically structured to recognize there's a lot of us kicking about. You might get inundated with these sorts of inputs all the time, but I'm really interested in performance, i.e. you start differentiating yourself. I'm really interested in performance, or I'm really interested in your sport. So you're starting to show that you're into this. I'm aware that you're aiming to support athletes to their best performance. So it could be that you've got a hint from the social media or their newsletters that they've got some good athletes in there. And I've put asterisks around athletes because if there's a, if you call them swimmers if they're swimmers, or gymnasts if they're gymnasts, or players if they're taekwondo, to know the technical term for that. And I wondered if I could learn about how you how the club trains and develops people to perform. So you're thinking about learning and supporting them and understanding what they do. And if there's any way I could help with that, I'd love to do so. So this is the sort of structure that I would encourage you to take through. Of an introduction, you've got to introduce yourself. You've got to show how you might be slightly different. You understand about their particular focus and their culture, showing that you're interested in them and learning from them, and then hinting that you might be able to help them. So if you're screenshotting that, great. I will copy and paste that, and I will certainly put that into the links in a moment. The foundation here is that you are trying to get to an island called trust. You are trying to get bridge the water to trust. This is the place you need to get to extremely quickly. That someone's going to make a judgment, and the statistics on this are about 7 seconds, that someone will make a judgment as to whether they think they can trust you or not. So how do you develop trust? So the components of trust are that you're able to develop a personal connection between people. So that's the rapport bit. This is about you initially saying, I know that you're aspiring to this, or I know you're busy, I appreciate your time. There's a human connection there. The commitment that you could deliver to their goal, understanding that you're aspiring to something out of their reach. They want the best for their athletes, and that you're demonstrating that you can commit to working for them, and show some sort of opportunity that you're of sound of character. So if someone says to you, so what have you done before? Well, I've committed to working to this person, or I have supported this athlete through some really difficult times. You start to showcase rapport, commitment, integrity, and these components mean that you've got to be continually working at this. That means that you cannot be late for the training session. That you've got to be a good egg. You've got to be a powerful force of positive support, and that integrity aspect, soundness of character. That people go, you know what? I don't know what they're into, whether it's nutrition or performance analysis, but they're a good person to have around. That's the sort of comment that you need to be aspiring to. I'm getting a comment here that I've frozen. Can people hear me okay? Are you picking up the video and the text and are we all transmitting all right? All good here, yes. Sorry, Joseph. Right, so here's my top tip about how you turn up on the day, but also when you get a gig and that you turn up on a day-to-day basis. This is possibly the most wonderful slide I've created all year. But if you're in a bad mood and you think, oh, I've got to go and try and knock on doors again, oh, this is really difficult, or I'm really worried about how this is going. If you're in a bad mood, if you're the one on the left, then how's it going to go? It's going to go badly. The biggest determinant of whether you're going to get successful buy-in or not is how you turn up, how you present yourself. Literally the things that you're wearing, literally your body language, literally the words that you say. And if you think there's something that really gets me in a good mood, whether it's a bit of music or doing something, then do that before you're actually going and finding that particular opportunity. So here's my top tips for some. We talked about what you say, so the non-verbal communication skills. So we'll start at the top here, is you've got to show an element of confidence. And the body language cue for that is that your shoulders are back. If you're hunched and you're scrunched up, then it shows that you are questioning yourself very clearly. Take a non-defensive approach. As soon as you start crossing your arms, as soon as you start touching your face, then you're going to be struggling to create that sense of buy-in. Approachable, so a smile, a genuine smile. And I would say how you don't create that false Gordon Brown style smile is think this is a privilege to do this. I go and actually go and talk to these amazing people. So I'm genuinely chuffed to be here, as opposed to feeling like it's a threat. 45-degree handshake. So there's some good research that holding your hand at the approach of shaking somebody's hand is critical. When you go and have a look at some videos of Donald Trump shaking hands, and he comes in like this and he cuts people and he pulls people around, you'll get the gist. Maintain eye contact, recognize who they are in terms of just recognition. There's a sense of listening and mindfulness. I'm in this, rather than just thinking I've got to follow this formula of conversation. Just be in it, be absolutely in it. And because by this point you've practiced it. Avoid interruption. And if someone says, yeah, well, I've had sports science students on work experience before, I didn't go well, acknowledge it and then build. Say, oh, I understand that and I'd appreciate, and I'm sorry that that's happened to you before. I feel I've got something that can offer you. And here I would talk about having something in your back pocket, literally a printout, literally a one-pager of some ideas that you might have put together. I don't know if you've got any nutritionists on or maybe some psychologists. We're talking almost like the five key tips for outstanding nutrition on race day, or the top 5 tips about how you can turn worry into performance. So something that you've produced. So if you can do that, and literally they say, well, what sort of thing are you talking about? What could you do? And you literally can pull something out and say, like this, something like this that potentially we could put up or we could talk to the athletes about and help them with. So I would like you now to tell me on the chat, what could you pull together that you could offer straight away? So take a moment now on this webinar and give me your feedback. Tell me if this is my best foot forward. This is the thing that I could potentially pull out of my pocket and go, this is something I could help with. So put it in the chat box, whatever it might be. Come on, guys. So again, if you don't want to read your name out, then just put a star before your question. I could quite easily deliver a team talk presentation on the importance of sleep and the effect on performance. Yeah, fantastic. So if you could give it like a little overview of, I've delivered a sleep session, a session on optimizing sleep so that people enhance recovery, so they've got more energy on the day. Great example. Something nice and tangible there, Jamie. That's a great idea. I have a simple infographic on performance nutrition ready to go, Liam Oliver. So that's great. So my top tip there is, rather than just saying this is what performance nutrition is all about, i.e. it's about energy and balance and optimizing weight, rather than talking about your topic, that you should drill down on something that's going to give value for that particular club or group. So if it's a weight making sport, then you could say, almost say the top tips for making weight, the proven tactics to do that. So make it around a performance topic. So Luke Oates, importance of opposition analysis in preparation for match day. Again, I would again reframe that one, Luke, just from the point of view of saying the importance of opposition analysis, to say, here's an example of how we've profiled opposition, and this is how we've changed tactics as a consequence. So give a nice live case example. Caitlin Garden, I could show my research into RSI and speed performance. RSI, can you clarify that? Because about three or four different uses of acronyms. Repetitive strain injury? I don't think that is. So I don't know what RSI is just at the moment. Reactive strength index, thank you. Okay, so speed-based performances. Yeah, fantastic. So again, how can we reframe that? I could show my research into reactive strength index. So rather than saying I can show my research, which is a key mistake at interview, about saying this is the research that I've done, as opposed to this is the impact this work has had, is if you can then start talking about here's some ideas and concepts about how we can improve speed performance by understanding how athletes contact the ground. Okay, some great examples. James, last one then, James, giving a talk about beetroot juice to a group of runners at an athletics club or team sport such as rugby. Okay, so again, a topic based, but if you can frame that into beetroot juice, rather than just talking about beetroot juice, you could talk about here's some ideas about improving supplementation plans for on-the-day race performance. So it makes it really tangible, because you're putting it in their terms this is going to, I know there's an opportunity before the race. And so getting James's input about how we do that rather than it's about beetroot juice. Fantastic. Good. So here's some just realities, guys and girls, that no one is going to contact you out of the blue. I'm yet to hear that as something, you know what? I've never done any of this before, sports science, and I got a call from Man United. It's amazing. No one's going to do that necessarily, unless you've got some sort of privileged contact, and that's rare. And if you have got that, you're probably not going to learn most from it. You're the one who's solely responsible for making this happen, and it's about you taking action and actually doing this. And I know that a number of you are nervous about making this first approach, but genuinely, what's the worst that could happen? What is the worst that can happen? Somebody could chew your ear off and have a go at you for being a sports science student. Someone could tell you to F off and have a right go at you. That's the worst that could happen. But welcome to performance. If you're afraid of that happening, then don't go into the world of performance because it is emotional. People are going to lose their temper at different times. People are going to be under pressure and nervous at different moments. And you've got to feel that heat and then respond positively. Because if you support a coach when they're losing it and they're so thankful for that, you're probably going to be a lifelong friend for them. So what's the worst going to happen? You could have a nice little drive and you could come back from having seen a couple of swimmers or gymnasts and that not happen for you. So I want you to, if you can, it's just a complete experiment. I want you to have a go now. So I want you to get onto Google and I want you to put sports clubs near me or put a town in. So I'm challenging you now specifically. Yeah, you're doing work now. You thought you were just going to sit back and watch this. I'm challenging you now to put in a sports club and find somewhere that you think, that's interesting. And I'm going to do this at the end. So get onto Google and sports clubs now, and then and search. And the reason I'm asking you to do this is that there's some good research about taking action. That if you think, oh yeah, I should do that, and if you don't do that for 48 hours, within 48 hours, the chances of you actually taking action go almost to zero. And so rather than wait 48 hours, I'm encouraging you to have a go now before we get into the Q&A. And then, so in the chat box, let me know who are you going to contact. This is, you're finding some clubs now, you're looking at the maps and thinking, who are these people? I don't know. If you've got someone that leaps out, you think, I'm gonna contact them, or I'm gonna find out more about them, then let me know on the chat box there. A couple of people with starred opportunities. So there's some nice places. There's some great looking clubs that you're already thinking about. If you're happy for me to read some of these out, Leicestershire Cycling Club. I'm thinking, Caitlin, I'm thinking Brighton Gymnastics Club. Yeah, why not? Fantastic. Wouldn't they love some reactive strength index type knowledge in their club? If you package that right, Caitlin, that can have a real effect. Any more on that one? This is about you taking action, ladies and gents. This is you've got to do this if you want this career. A couple more there. So some other examples. So what if it doesn't go well, or if it does? Even if it does, you've got to think about what went well. If I've got the opportunity, then you've also got what could I have done better and why. Now, inevitably, you might have stumbled over your words, or you've got something muddled up as you pitch your idea, or you didn't know how to respond to a certain thing. Make some notes and make sure that you're integrating that every time that you try. So probably I had about 15 attempts at this before I got my first actual connection. So this using this particular approach, and that was 15 times that I'd improved my pitch, and I'm still learning today. So Doncaster rugby team. I found the name of an amateur team that play football in the park around the corner where I walk the dog. Going to approach in person now. Sounds like you're actually leaving the webinar, Jamie. So I might have stomped off and gone, right, I've had enough, I'm off, I'm doing it. Fantastic, you're moving to action. Some time for some questions, and I have promised you that I will go onto Google and show you how I would approach looking for some opportunities. So now we've got a chance for some questions for 10 minutes or so. I am very thirsty. I've been talking all day long. So I need some hydration advice. Someone can offer some hydration advice. I'm going to scroll back through. There's a couple of questions that came in a bit earlier. David Morgan, just finished my second year exams. Always been conscious about trying to get ahead and thinking about the future. Always thought a PhD would put me in a good place with regards to getting a job, but how necessary is this compared to acquiring a master's or basic undergraduate degree? Good question, David. So this is it's an interesting one. Typically, you will find that if you've done an undergraduate degree, that you need to make sure you do a master's before you do a PhD. That's the typical route. So most PhD opportunities will require a master's to apply for that. If you can find a sports performance-based PhD, so one aligned to an elite team or a group of elite athletes, then well done, but they're rare. What you potentially could be looking at is something that is novel and interesting and really applied. So it could be fasting in the morning. How does that affect carbohydrate metabolism during prolonged cycling, for example? So that could be quite relevant. So that wouldn't necessarily take you off topic. Last week we had a nice example from Lorna Donoghue, where she was potentially considering a diabetes PhD, and I sensed that really that would take her off in a different direction. So a PhD is useful, but potentially it's something you could come back to and do a little bit later. Liam Oliver, evening Steve, definitely just need more relevant experience. Example, in the last year, I've worked with athletes individually, but would like to support nutrition for a team. Okay, so that's really relevant in getting individual and team-based experiences because they're different. So we've talked about formal and informal experiences. Yeah, there's a sense of team and individual. They will offer you different experiences. Team working, you've got to understand performance cultures and how you blend into that team. You've got to be a bit of a chameleon when the captain's maybe a brooding introvert, or you've got the excitable puppy extrovert that you've got to manage the same sort of dynamic, and making sure that you're efficient in pitching your ideas to a group where it's going to be widely received. Whereas individual athletes might offer you the opportunity to do a deep dive with and really hone in on some problem solving. So yeah, I think that could help you. I haven't managed to be an established nutrition intern for a large squad yet. Okay, so yeah, that's definitely important. So Jamie is off with his football team. Alan, what's the medal hanging in the background? So that's it's questions about what the topic, Alan. That is the Land's End to John O'Groats cycling that I did in 2015, and I wouldn't do again. Actually, it was wonderful. It was probably the best experiences of my life. So yeah, it was amazing. Simon Smith, would having a good social media profile help if an organization did a quick background check in response to your first contact? And if so, what might that look beyond avoiding the obvious? How can you show your value in this context? Yes, Simon, we touched on this for the what was it for the, I'm forgetting what the sessions were now. We touched on this last time about you. Oh yeah, about setting yourself up as a professional. And one of the concepts is about social media is a good way to start presenting your ideas. I think in some companies, they have a policy and will not Google people beforehand. I do not expect that to be widely used. Expect people to Google you. So you need to be talking about the things that you're passionate about, things you're interested in, some questions that you've got for people, so engaging in the sports science type community, and your social media profile needs to look professional. I will actually touch on this next time on Thursday about your social media profiles and some do's and some don'ts as to how you can upgrade that and also just look a little bit inexperienced and some traps to fall into. I'm currently, so Adam McCarthy, I'm currently on a postgraduate master's course and currently unsure what to do after university work-wise, as I don't have the grades, but really want to do something in sports science like a research assistant. Will my grades affect my job prospects? I'm currently on a postgraduate master's course. So, okay, so postgraduate master's course that offers you an opportunity to sort of further your study. The only thing I would say there, Adam, is that if you have got if your grades are okay, but you've got a raft of experience, then you're more likely to get the job applications, the job interviews, if you've got that sort of experience. If someone rocks up with a third-class honours degree with no experience, they're going to struggle. But if someone's got a 2-2, maybe a 2-1, but they have been out there and grafting and creating experience for themselves, and they've got a demonstrable record of it, and they can communicate that at interview, yeah, that's pretty strong. Some organisations will have a policy of only taking 2-1 or first-class honours or high-level grades. They tend to be mostly for PhDs. So I don't think it can affect you longer term. Adam, you have got to have the experience to show for your effort. And if your grades are no good and you've got no experience, then that's not going anywhere. So Max Holgate, evening Max. Any advice when approaching a new sport? Would you reach out to them now and take action, or wait and gain some more in-depth knowledge of the sport? So give me an example there, Max. Is that something like rock climbing, for example, that is now an Olympic sport, is now trying to form themselves into an organized unit? So that would be an interesting sport to catch early. To say, I know you're just starting to think about performance differently, but I've got some ideas to improve fatigue rates of muscle, for example. So a new sport that potentially where the rules are just forming and you haven't necessarily got the structure and the rigor behind the sport, that can mean that it's a bit of a moving target, but equally it can also offer you a performance gain to say, you can get a march on this. Hopefully that's answered your question, Max. Jamie Williams is back from his work with the amateur team playing football in the park where his dog gets walked. I think social media is used widely and can be a useful tool. Yes, I agree. But you don't have to do it. If you just think that's not for me, then because you've got to be authentic on social media. Don't necessarily just go out there and think I've got to be somebody I'm not. If it's not for you, then be careful about it and find your voice first. Jamie Williams again. I had someone reach out to me through my own sports organization based purely on my Instagram post featuring me working with GPS units, an opportunity I hope to expand soon with them. So, okay, there you go. That's interesting. So you're working with a sports organization at the moment, Jamie. You've posted something on social media and somebody's got in contact to say, I'd like to do something like that. So that's a great reframe, that you should be looking maybe at social media and thinking, who's active in this space that I might be able to approach for to get some work experience. Catherine how do I pronounce your name? Catherine? Catherine Gage? Is that? How valuable is gaining experience in your current university environment in various research projects, which could be classed as a comfortable environment compared to reaching out to external employers? I think you need it, but don't think that's enough. I will come on to this in interviewing questions, which is a week on Thursday. But if you turn around and your best experience at interview is I was involved in research projects, you're probably not going to get the job. It doesn't demonstrate that you can do the job unless it's assisting research projects. So when I was at university, I definitely got involved in as a subject and as somebody who's undertaking experiments, and it was useful, but not nearly as useful as me busting a gut, catching a bus, sort of cycling down to these various sports clubs and knocking on doors. David Morgan, although you made clear the value of communicating via person-to-person interaction, how effective do you think LinkedIn is as a way of contacting specific people within institutions with regards to potential opportunities? Yes, I think it is, but it's not nearly as good. So please don't think that it's a substitute or a surrogate for emailing. So yes, LinkedIn is useful. I would probably say that you'd want to be connecting with people rather than just messaging them cold. So that could be finding out what posts they've made, liking those posts, commenting on those posts, posting yourself about a similar sort of thing, and engaging with people initially, so it doesn't just seem like you're spamming their LinkedIn message with, oh, can I have an opportunity? Can I get some experience from you? So that would be my top tip. Okay, last couple then. So I've got Catherine's name correct, which is wonderful. Could I use transferable work experience within the sports science sectors? So I have a lot of experience working for local government in terms of management, but the duration was not long as we were all laid off during cuts. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Adam. So, so could you use that experience of working for local government in terms of the management ideas? So project management is critical. So you've got to be reliable and you've got to commit and show that you can do the work. And so being able to say to people that, you know, I can provide some support to you, but I know I can perform. I know I can manage complex projects and I can deliver that for you. If you're getting integrated into a sports club and you're doing timings for people, if you're making session notes, if you're noting heart rates down, or if you're looking at sweat rates, or if you're looking at pacing, then yeah, you'd be spinning plates, and that is a management project in itself.